along here because time is going. So now let's say we do have an unrelated business income tax. Who's responsible for having the income tax return prepared for that?
Okay, well, in our case and in most of the custodian firms' cases, we require that the client arrange for the preparation of the 990T, and that's mainly because we as the custodial firm are not running the business, nor are we familiar with maybe other investors that may be in on a shared deal, and we're not able to calculate to what extent our client may be subject to UBIT. We're not seeing all the factors and all the deductions that might apply. So generally speaking, what happens is the client gets their CPA or the general manager of the partnership, whatever it happens to be, to prepare the 990T in the name of the IRA. It gets sent to us, filled out, we sign it and notarize it and send the payment out of the IRA into the IRS. Now, understand that the IRA is always going to be able to make the payment because if there's no income, there's no tax. So there's more income coming in than there is tax going out. So there's always enough funds to pay the tax.
Okay, good. Well, unless you got a partnership and they're not making distributions, but
well, partnerships are really quite rare these days. In most cases, we're dealing with LLCs, and they're
like
similar.
a single member LLCs, that
or
sort of stuff.
Multiple members.
Oh,
I mean, yeah.
But they're making enough distributions.
Partnerships we don't see too many partnerships anymore.
Okay. All right. So we talked about the leverage thing. I guess another concern, that I've expressed to you is that I think there can be a little bit of a question as to whether there's a trade or business for people who have multiple real estate transactions, like they're turning many properties in a year, as to whether they've got
particularly if it's becoming a full-time activity for them. If they're employed gainfully in another full-time job, then there's a stronger argument that what they're doing is simply investing. However, if they're devoting all their time and energy to it, and they're basically buying lots and filling them, putting in improvements and then selling them, now they're running a real estate development company, and that's going to be subject to UBIT.
Yeah. So this is a little bit of a question mark area, folks, and really you do need to get advice about it. And so, but again, we're going to move on a little bit because we just have so much time to talk. Now, as a real estate investor, what things can you do and what things can't you do when real estate is held in an IRA and Roth account? I guess part of what we're getting involved with here is prohibited transactions.
Absolutely. That's a whole area of expertise that we pride ourselves on knowing quite a bit about, and we educate the public on a regular basis. But essentially, you can't self-deal, so you can't deal with you can have a transaction between yourself and your IRA, for example, exercising stock options that you were granted individually, or taking a real estate asset that you have personally and trying to put it into your IRA, or buying your son's first house with your IRA funds. So there's a family of people called disqualified persons that you can't deal with: your spouse, yourself, your children, and the spouses of your children, and any ascendants as well. Beyond that, there are some complicated other prohibited transaction rules that don't come up too often. But one of them is, for example, co-investing. You're allowed to co-invest with your own personal funds and your IRA, so you could have 40% or $40,000 on a $100,000 property coming out of your checking account and the other $60,000 coming out of your IRA. However, when you do that, it has to be an all-cash transaction. You can't use leverage in that case. There are other self-dealing rules, but basically if you stay away from those three asset types, collectibles, life insurance, and subchapter S stock, and you're buying from some third party a piece of real estate, and you don't occupy it, you can't use it for your own personal use. It has to be strictly for investment. And you don't go over there and put a new roof on and add sweat equity to it. You have to hire somebody. And you're allowed to hire the people and make decisions for your IRA called ministerial activities. But you're not allowed to go over there and clean the toilets and take a hammer to the wall and that kind of thing. You have to hire professionals, and those fees have to be paid by the IRA itself.
Okay. Let's see here. Let's go ahead. Well, I guess one thing that we haven't focused on, but But folks, Roth versus regular IRA. So the big thing is that the Roth, when the money comes out, is not going to be subject to income tax.
Provided you wait 5 years and the age 59 and a half.
Right, so you have to meet some requirements, but you know, those aren't insurmountable.
No, not at all.
Types of requirements. And so the thing is though, wow, you know, when we talk about this potential of appreciation and so forth, and then if, first of all, we escape the tax, we've talked about deferral in the past with IRA, but now with Roth, to say no tax.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal opportunity.
Huge.
It's effective January this year, government is giving everybody a freebie in the sense that they're allowing you to convert regardless of your income. It used to be capped at 100,000 adjusted gross.
Right.
If you made more than that, you couldn't even do a Roth conversion. Now, there's no, you could be Bill Gates and do a Roth conversion. But moreover, when you convert this year, you have the option of spreading the tax impact over 2 subsequent years, 2011 and 12, which really pushes it out to October 15th of 2013 if you wanted to get extensions.
Yeah.
So, and by the way, if you do a conversion somewhere in this year and you change your mind, you have until October 15th to recharacterize it and undo it without tax or penalty next year. So what people are doing is people who bought real estate that may be devalued right now, maybe they purchased it in 2005, 6, or 7,
sure,
and they've seen depreciation. They're saying, well, I'll convert that, pay lower tax on the conversion amount or the fair market value that it is today,
right,
and let it recover in my Roth IRA, and then when I decide to take it out or sell it, all that'll be you know, tax-free.
yeah.
Now, if you have a rental property, or let's say you find a developer that had a lakefront resort that they were building out and the bottom fell out of the market and it's just sitting there, if you can pick up some of these really ripe opportunities, you can rent them out until you get to age 59 and a half and having held it for 5 years, and then you can move into it with no tax.
Isn't that
and
something?
Your basis becomes the fair market value at the time you move into it.
Isn't that something? It's amazing. So acquiring your retirement home.
Exactly.
The trick is that you have to make it investment property in the interim.
Oh,
so
sure.
It's got to be a rental. But then, you know, after you reach retirement age, to be able to take it as a distribution.
Yeah, this economic situation that we find ourselves in is obviously all economic situations have their pros and cons, but there's a lot of opportunity here with some things being depressed as they are.
Okay, folks, I think we're about out of time. So, Tom, we've got actually a minute. So do you have any last words of wisdom before we wrap this thing up?
Well, I think it's very important for people to get serious about their retirement savings. I mean, the reality is that people are living much longer. When, you know, when Social Security was devised in 1935, people were still eligible as they are today to tap it at age 62, but they were statistically dead at age 62. And so the government never intended to pay on Social Security. Today, that's a whole different ballgame, and something is going to break on Social Security, and you're going to be more and more dependent on yourself. I like to tell the story about Elsie McLean, who happens to hold the record for being the oldest person to ever hit a hole-in-one.
Wow.
And she's from Chico, California. She's 102 years old.
That's amazing.
And the moral of the story, I think, is that she either had a trust fund, she had a very good financial planner or investment advisor, or she was a good saver herself, because she can still afford the green fees at age 102.
Okay, so we have to wrap it up now. Tom, thank you very much. Folks, hope you can join us next time on Financial Insider Weekly.